Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we're bringing you day 283 of Russian invasion into Ukraine, with Mark Feygin, Russian opposition politician, and Olexiy Arestovych, advisor to the office of the President of Ukraine, Lieutenant Colonel. In today's stream, they discuss situation on the front, in Donetsk and Lugansk specifically, the makeup and numbers of Russian military in Ukraine, Western support, which is usually running late by about 2 to 3 months, Russian propagandists discussing fake news instead of addressing real hot topics, probability of Russian troops leaving Zaporozhye nuclear power station, the rate of attrition, the numbers of occupants that Ukrainian military are destroying daily, Russian Minister of Defense Shoigu visiting Minsk to converse with Lukashenko, anti-Russian sanctions, oil price corridor is not to exceed $60 starting December 5th. Security guarantees for Russia, what is that about? And Putin trying to copy Zelensky and talking about possible visit to Donbass, as well as the recent scandal with the TV company Dost Rain in Latvia. Enjoy! Dear friends, glad to see you all. It is Saturday, December 3rd. Time is 2 minutes past 10 in Kiev and 2 minutes past 11 in Moscow. It is day 283 with Olexiy Arestovich. Glad to see you, Olexiy. Good evening, Mark. Alright, we're doing another stream, and we have about 100,000 people watching us. Over 20,000 click the like button. Thank you, everybody, for spending your time on the weekend to join us and hear about the recent news and their discussions. Please continue sharing streams, as usual. We try to share that information with as many people as possible in hopes that will affect the outcome of this war. Subscribe to Feigin Live and to Olexiy Arestovich channel, and of course to the Privateer Station, which is bringing you these conversations in English. Alright, let's start with the current situation. Let's bring the map. Okay, I have the map here. It's to the right of me, so I'll be looking a little bit off screen discussing it. So Kherson region, nothing changed. We're shooting at them, they're shooting at us. Zaporozhye, they are frantically trying to rebuild their defense line with an emphasis of defending the area of Tokmak, Melitopol. Those two tents and the 7 o'clock on this map. The brightest events are happening in Donetsk and Lugansk regions. Of course, understandably why. If any of you does not get it, why is that so hot? The idea that if Putin manages to capture Donetsk and Lugansk regions, that'll be his way out to explain himself. He can say that our interests never exceeded getting beyond Donetsk and Lugansk regions. These are our allies that we wanted to protect and gain the full territory of those allies back. And Crimea and attacks to Kiev from the north, that was all a distraction maneuver. We lost it, what will be 250,000 by that time, probably troops, not in vain. And we protected our Belgorod region because Ukraine was going to attack there, and we liberated our Donetsk and Lugansk region allies. So that'll be something for him to sell. If he fails with that offensive, he will have nothing to sell to the internal market. So here's what's going. Near Donetsk, near Peski, they're trying to capture that little area around their territory, and they're trying to create a certain flanking maneuver base to possibly get to Bakhmut. And if you can see, they want to get roughly on the road, Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, Konstantinovka. This is the list of a number of settlements from about 11 to about 9 around the yellow road on that map. But that's the problem. If they stretch further out in that area to get to that road, they'll be very stretched out. So Ukrainian troops from the north will be always at risk of cutting them, and they need to basically move that whole front as one push. and they need also to continue pushing and somehow get to Slavyansk in the north. This is, for this they need to cut that Ukrainian line on the north as well, where you see two arrows on top of it. And they are still have no solution near Krasnorechinskaya, near Svatova, near Kremenaya. So the top red arrow, that's close to Kremenaya, and Russian public media were discussing and forums were discussing that on the northern side of Kremenaya, there are some Ukrainian troops going into offensive with some proper artillery cover, and they don't know what to do with them. So the most difficult area for our troops is near Bakhmut. With inhuman effort, they are putting hundreds and thousands of Russian occupants into the ground, which are trying to get past Bakhmut and cut the road from Bakhmut to Konstantinovka to the south of Bakhmut. And also the arrows to the north of Bakhmut. See that group of arrows at the bottom of this map? The three at the bottom are trying to get to the yellow road. The several above that, they're trying to get to cut the other road. It is a somewhat interesting situation where their main effort is being undertaken by the groups of infantry. They not even using heavy armor, tanks, or anything. They're just wasting their infantry. Practically non-stop infantry attacks, 8 to 10 attacks daily, and they try to get and slowly push by meter, another meter, a yard, another yard. So according to their messages, they might have taken Kurdyumovka, a small settlement to the south of Bakhmut. So they're really trying to cut that road, Konstantinovka to Bakhmut. Will they succeed? I don't think so. Given that, according to their words, we are conducting an offensive in Lugansk region, that situation looks like a rotating door, They're going forward a little bit, trying to push it in the south, while we are at the same time pouring in from the north. I'm not going to continue about what may happen, but those people who understand military maneuvers at least a little bit can foresee what might happen to that group near Bakhmut. But what I can say that it is of my deep opinion, because of events and things that are happening there, they will fail to capture Bakhmut. But imagine that, let's just play it out. Imagine that our command decides to give Bakhmut. What will they get, except for proving Arestovych wrong that they'll never capture any notable settlement in this war? Nothing. That Bakhmut settlement doesn't really carry any strategic importance. Well, what about the other ones? Kramatorsk, Slavyansk? They still have to walk that area. There is still a lot of distance between Bakhmut. See that somewhat blank area between Bakhmut and the next line of settlements? We'll not just give it up. There are fortifications and lines in that area too, so they may take Bakhmut, but that doesn't mean they'll be running forward after that, if we're looking at this eventuality. So at current pace, they probably will take them 3 years to get to that road. Probably the war will be over before. By the way, they have been near Slavyansk earlier, and they were kicked out of that area. Remember when they captured Lysychansk and Severodonetsk? They got pretty close to Slavyansk at that time, and then they lost all that. So, despite some of our observers who start having some concerned notes in their commentary, I am keeping optimistic here. I think we will figure out that situation, and if it happens as I predict, it means that Russian toughest group on this war theater would have lost the only operation they tried to push there. So overall, recognize they have about 210,000 troops on our territory. What's the share, right? What's the share of Mobiks in that group of mobilized troops? So Donetsk, Lugansk, 160,000. Kherson Kherson area, about 50,000 troops. In Kherson, at least 50-55% are mobilized. They can even try to do that. Offensive on the Eastern Front is only due to saturating other positions with mobilized. If they haven't, we would have already trampled through their positions. So that mobilization helped them at least for some saturation. They have due to that, a correlation, a ratio of 1 to 5, 1 to 9 in their favor on some parts, with local advantages on some parts of the front, and supported by artillery. That's what they're doing near Bakhmut. How do you think this situation is affected by military supplies of allies? If you had more troops, more equipment, to throw into the fight near Bakhmut, would they change situation dramatically? Can you talk about that? Of course. Let's correct things here. On some areas, they have up to 50% of mobilized troops. But overall, if you take those 210,000, they're probably about 15% of mobilized. So overall, there are not too many of them yet, just about 15%. But in some areas like Zaporozhye, Kherson, about half. So the most effort is being carried by Wagner and by some of the cadre groups, which are also retrofitted by mobilized. I think I am still correct, because cadre, I'm getting a message here that cadre troops have been refitted and they count them as cadre, as not mobilized. I think I'm still right saying that they're about 50% mobilized, because even though it's a cadre group already that existed before that war, detachment, it would still be filled with mobilized. So yeah, I think there are more of them. As for the armor and supplies by the West, they're usually lagging behind by about 2 to 3 months. What's the reason for that? So Russian leadership is usually lagging 2 to 3 months behind proper solutions on the front, just because how they make decisions and how their structure works. And the West is also lagging by about 2 to 3 months because that's how they make these decisions and that's what they can supply. So roughly it's about 2 to 3 months lag between what we can do and or what we want to do, what the situation on the front would allow us to do, and when we actually have the means to do that. On the West, obviously there is a procedure of agreements and authorization. Probably 60% are still related to what can be supplied, to the actual supplies, actual nomenclature, what is available. And about 30% is probably related to political matters. Who supplies what? Why do we need to supply that? Why don't you supply that? And then, of course, some political sentiment. Why are we even supplying anything? So that's where the West is. And on the Russian side, why they're also slow in reacting, they're conducting this war under immense pressure of the global community. And we are being active. We're being active in resisting their maneuvers. So I guess it's Putin. It's his manner of wobbling and not making decisions for long, taking time to make any decision. And it's basically good because if he was more decisive, the West would probably be 4 to 6 months behind. Also, speaking of the West supplies, they're not really giving us armor and supplies in terms for certain operations. They're giving them for as a general sentiment of the front. And the problem right now, for example, is that Russian side, due to the numeric advantage on some parts of the front, they can undertake some efforts in some parts of the front, for example, like to the south of Bakhmut, but be that mobilized, be that newly mobilized, who will be mobilized in winter, we'll still kick them all out, bury whoever comes here, and it'll be pretty simple. Yeah, kick them back and bury, or bury and kick them back. I don't know if you've seen that video. Different media were talking about that Russian propagandist resources, Komsomol's Truth and information agency RIA News. So they put some of their Russian intel officers who was talking about. It's a funny video. He was talking that Ukrainian tankers were welded shut in the tank so that they would be fighting. And they refused to fight. They turned the gun backwards and they were knocking on the tank in a Morse code, SOS. So, yeah, Mark, that's an old video, actually. They recorded that and it appeared on the Blink a couple months ago. But, yeah, but it's kind of becoming popular now. I don't know why. We'll talk about Sobyanin's mayor of Moscow visit to Donbass. This is like foreplay before probably Putin coming there, because according to his spokesperson statement Peskov, he might visit Donbass at some point. So these trashy things, trashy news about welding fighters in the tanks, this is some real trash. I wonder, let me ask this, Mark, the dog eyes that are being mailed to our embassies, they're not discussing that in the news? Yeah, we'll discuss that too, but let's first address this video. Mark, with all due respect, I don't want to address the idiotic episodes they put on their TV. It's about nothing. It's literally their fakest of the fake. Oh, here's another one. Ukraine military is running out of supplies, so in their supply lines there is a lot of items being sold on black market, there's a lot of prostitution happening, there is a lot of bodies being disassembled for organs. I'm just reading you what I'm seeing there. I don't know if it's full moon or, something. It's already not autumn, but no, there's still a couple days till the full moon mark. I don't even know which phase it is now. But why do you think they are bringing... Why is such an effort of propaganda at the moment? Mark, their propaganda is degrading, stronger and stronger. More and more. To the degree that I don't even know how to discuss that. This is just trash. Okay. International Nuclear Committee announced that they're discussing the possibility of Russian troops maybe leaving Zaporozhye nuclear power plant in exchange for some concessions, maybe ammonia transfer through Odessa, maybe some relief in the sanctions. So do you think that withdrawal of Russian troops from nuclear power plant, do you think it's possible? Oh, Mark, these are sweet talks about active gestures of goodwill. Take a look at the map. Take a look at the map again. Can you bring it up? Zaporozhye. Let's see, where is Energodar on that map? Hang on, we'll bring it up. It is right across from Nikopol. Much more to the left of what? Of the place where they expect a major offensive from us. So let's go down. Let's take this map down to Zaporozhye region. Yeah. So imagine their crazy situation with Ukrainian tankers well shot in their tanks with, I guess, Polish volunteers or somebody making a rush onto Zaporozhye. What happens to Energodar? It remains at the bottom. It remains deep, surrounded by our troops. It remains far beyond the front line. So they know that they'll lose that town. They know that they'll not be able to hold it. So all these conversations about futile attempts to provide defense of the south, they're just trying to avoid getting entrapped near Energodar. So they can tell International Nuclear Committee about their gestures of goodwill. For us, we don't need that. We understand this is a trap for them, for all the troops that are in Energodar, and that they need to withdraw. So, and if they have to withdraw, why not to trade it, right? So that's what exactly what they're doing. Okay, here comes the map. And it would have been very naive from the Ukrainian side to do something with Energodar if we'll get it as the ripe fruit falling from the tree under any active motion to the front, any successful eventuality on that front. So maybe just to expedite the time frame, the tempo, but or protecting the world from a nuclear catastrophe that these idiots have been threatening with for a while. By the way, we did not mention Sumy region, where they had 76 shellings today, or 76 missiles hit them, artillery shells. Something was booming there. So Kharkov is also continuing to get shelled. Nikopol, by the way, across from Energodar, getting shelled. Kherson is getting shelled as well. So I'm pretty calm about Energodar, because if they are building their defense line, being afraid that we take Melitopol and Takmak, then Energodar will just capitulate after certain items there happen. Now let's talk about the attrition. They're losing about a battalion a day. Roughly, what's the number? It's about 600 killed daily. They have never really stopped mobilization in Russia. Conversations about the second wave are not exactly precise because they continue mobilization effort without too much announcement of it, but they continue the effort. So they did throw more people to the front. Unfortunately, they failed to fully achieve the goals of the first mobilization wave. And they probably will still do an active second wave just to compensate for more losses of the first wave. So I have good news for the mobilized of the first wave. The first wave, you'll all die soon. And the second wave should also know that they will be dead soon, just a little later. So these are my good news for the mobilized. By the way, according to Putin, they're all going to paradise. Putin said, you'll all die and we'll go to paradise. I don't think he'll go to paradise. I don't know what kind of paradise are they going to. But yeah, that's our news. I have an anecdote about that, but again, inappropriate. Let's talk about another matter. Embassies. It all started with the embassy in Madrid package, which exploded in hands of one of the employees of the embassy. He lost 2 fingers in that explosion. I've seen the pictures of that box. They started sending mailings, packages to Ukrainian embassies in Europe. Dozens probably by now already. And there are cut-out eyes of animals in them. They are a very weird bunch. I don't know if you watched that. We talked about some occult rituals that do happen in Putin's environment. There are some occult things, and we know what cutting the eyes mean, but it feels like they decided to bring another degree of protest against Putin's regime. Oh yeah, I think the last thing they didn't bring into the fight against themselves were the green and the protectors or defenders of animal rights, right? Now, and also imagine the reaction of Greta Thunberg. Oh no, she's quiet, she's mom. Yeah, her, and probably Kanye West, they're probably of the point of view that very the world fighting, the world bureaucratic machine is fighting against Putin, who is a holder of some conservative values. So very silly point of view, actually. And the ultra left also do not really address terrorist actions like that. But in essence, what Russian government is doing after they've been recognized as a terrorist state by Europe, that's what they're doing. They're terrorizing our embassies. They're terrorizing population. What do you think they're achieving there? I don't know what you can achieve, because what are you doing? What do you expect to that? 60 killed dogs is a reaction to the oil price corridor? Why Spain also? So I don't know. Was that what they meant when they talked about counter sanctions? I have no idea. But killing dogs, cutting dogs, you have to have some very grim fantasies. I guess they just don't really have anything to lose and they're just going for whatever. Well, yeah, the payback will be very relatable to them for all that stuff. Okay, we have about 300,000 watching us live, 85,000 click the like button. We've been live for about 25 minutes. Please continue sharing links to that stream in your social media and your groups. It is important to bring it in front of more people. Don't be greedy. If you are watching that, give a chance, click the like button, give a chance to other people to get that in their new stream and possibly click it and take a look. And I do get a lot of messages from Ukraine that people cannot watch that during electricity or connection, and they watch our stream much later. All right. So your links, they do help. Important. Please continue clicking like, sharing, and subscribing. And of course, all that effort helps us. Do not forget, do not ignore privateer station as well. Very important too. Okay, Shoigu, Minister of Defense, arrived to Minsk today. I thought they were going to have Lukashenko visit Moscow instead. But instead of him coming, they did send the Minister of Defense to talk to him. Then there were made several statements in his usual tone. But what I have here is a question. Do you think this is some sort of bending Lukashenko to what you understand what, to participate in that northern operation against Ukraine? Or maybe he's not going because he is afraid that he will be killed, assassinated in Moscow? Do you think it became a little more scary for him after Mackay's death, his Minister of International Affairs? So here's the quote from that. Belarus Republic is remaining our ardent ally against the countries of the West, pressuring us. That's the statement Shoigu made in Minsk. He also reiterated that according to the agreement made by presidents of two countries, Russian troops are continuing training on the territory of Belarus and preparing for participation in the operation in Ukraine. And then he says that he met with the president of Belarus. Their Ministry of Defense confirmed that too. So Lukashenko says that probably Minister of Defense of Belarus already mentioned that we talked, we have serious conversations about that, and our officers are preparing the guys to be able to address any aggression in case we need that. I'm not even talking about uniforms and other military logistics and supplies. Nobody separates one from another here. We're working as one entity, and we're not hiding anything here. It is impossible to conceal things in the modern world. So we are coordinating that with our Ministry of Defense, and we are fulfilling our promises and plans. Lukashenko, here's another quote from him. I'm not going to scare anyone here, and he's turning to Shoigu here. Everybody is scared already enough, but if we want to live on our own, in our territory, if Ukrainians want to live the way they want, how they want, it's their right to fight and resist. Otherwise, if they want to join us and live like we do, then we can sit down, negotiate, and figure it out. But the operation will not conclude if they will continue resisting our view of the world. And we'll achieve our goals. Do not think anything against it. We will achieve what we promised. I think everything is more simple. December 1st, it's the Belarus training period start. That's the day when Belarus army is going to train. And they went to all of the training facilities and they occupied all of the training facilities that Russian Federation was hoping to use for the current wave of mobilized and the future waves of mobilized. Also, Russian army is lacking uniform, is lacking ammo, and many other things. So Shoigu first came to talk about the order of using training facilities, and second about additional supply and transfer of ammo and equipment from Belarus to Putin's troops. So I think Lukashenko is probably striking a pose here and wants higher level visits. Although I think some of the transfers of that kind can be coordinated just on the level of ministers of defense. Lukashenko did not want to go to Moscow for whatever reason. And when they were discussing who of the Russian generals will come and talk about the transfer of logistics, transfer of ammo, transfer of additional supplies, I think Lukashenko put his foot down and said, we want the highest, so send your Minister of Defense. And that's why Shoigu came over. Yeah, I think the important part in that situation is that he's not going to Moscow. He, I think, is somewhat concerned about his security. Probably is. And I also think he doesn't want to be pressured. He doesn't like that feeling. And also that death, Mackay's death recently, who was reportedly happy and very much alive the day before he expired. I think Lukashenko, until the details of his death are figured out, he is very careful. He's very cautious about visiting outside of Belarus at the moment. Yeah, I have a feeling too, he might be just afraid of going there. Because he did listen it from many sources that Moscow could get rid of him. Yeah, we cannot exclude that. And then, Shoigu, you gotta come to Belarus and discuss ammo, or I don't know, maybe Russian troops are running out of potatoes. That's a good chance to supply it. I think it's very banal. Speaking of conspirology and talking about the horrible strike group in the north, we'll see everything when the time comes. Right now, there is no threat. It will take time to create that group, and if they start creating it, that's what we'll say. They started forming that group in the north, and if there will be a real risk, we'll say, yes, there is a risk now. Without any black t-shirt, I can come out and say, yeah, be ready. All right. Let's discuss then this price corridor, the oil price corridor, starting December 5th, $60 tops for barrel. Ukraine actually voted for $30, saying that it was a more proper price. And some other countries talked about it too, but there probably is some consensus between Washington and Europe. So on the 5th, today is what, 3rd? On Monday, they'll announce that Russia can sell their oil only at $60 max. That already brought to the price of oil going down on the market. And Moscow is stating that those who support the presence of that corridor, Russia will not engage with them. I have a question. Will they or will they not? I have a question. Whom they can sell it with? Whom can they trade with, if not? I have an answer. I just, yeah, exactly. You say, Mark. I think you know an answer. Oh, I know. They'll be selling it for 60 and then maybe for 30 with those who would be eager to buy it at 30. So Yermak was suggesting 30, Poland was suggesting 30. That would have really dwindled their capacities to mobilize to continue their militarized economy and probably would have saved more lives near Bakhmut and on the other parts of the front. But they agreed on the 60. I understand why. They're probably leaving a corridor for further decline of that price. Then, yeah, they mentioned that. Maybe it will go down in a month or two. Exactly. This is a pretty strong measure. So they're cutting one of these main support lines for a regime. Of course, that posing will not trade with those who will use that corridor price. Then, of course, they have nobody else to trade with, really. I don't see whom else they can sell their oil to. India and China, Iran and Saudi Arabia have a lot of oil being sold there. It's difficult to enter that market, and you will have to lower your prices to enter it, plus logistics. So it probably will result in closing different oil resources, oil pumping facilities. And you know, it's a difficult story. If you close one, it's very difficult to reanimate it again. So I think they'll feel it. I think by February we'll see how effective that corridor will be. I think it will be effective. It will have some effect on them. To what degree, we'll be able to discuss then. Okay, we've been live for 36 minutes. News about Macron saying that the future architecture of security in Europe must also provide guarantees of that security to Russia. Have you seen that statement? Yes, I have. Some people had reaction, some people had aggressive reaction. I haven't even seen any reaction to this, but let's soberly address that. Why not to guarantee some security for Russia? They are afraid of all the evil NATO and the world. Nobody needs them, in reality. But if they do want some security, it's like in that old anecdote, when Russians are afraid that NATO will capture Russia, is that train station prostitute being afraid that DiCaprio will rape her. Yeah, what to do there? What's the point of capturing Russia? Frankly, if somebody needs natural resources, you don't need to conquer it. They'll be eager to sell it. What else? Shoigu's hat, Putin's underwear. What else to fight for? I don't know. Yeah, I don't see why not to give a guarantee of security for, especially post-Putin's Russia. For example, you return all the nuclear weapons, you give up all the nukes, and then we sign it and call it Budapest 2. That'll be an honorable document. Okay, short commentary. Sobyanin visited some Potemkin villages in Donetsk area. In Donbass, not in Donetsk. So it's the second time. I think he was in Lugansk before. And is he practicing for Putin's visit? Well, yeah, they're cosplaying Zelensky. They are about what? half a year late and very crudely. So if Putin comes to Donbass, the all hope goes on Ukrainian intel and Ukrainian artillery. I don't think he'll come that close to the front. I don't think he'll reach him. Not even to the 70-mile radius? Damn it. They probably will just draw to him and say, hey, they cannot reach that. Well, then it's not Donbass. He can get to the border, Russian border. Right, put one leg on Donbass and one leg on the Russian side, just like people make a picture on Greenwich Meridian. I have a picture like that when I was lieutenant. Brits took me on an excursion to the Greenwich Meridian, and I have a picture somewhere, an old picture card with one leg on the Eastern Hemisphere and other in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, no, his picture will be more modest. They probably can also build some fake settlements, some forts or whatever. We'll bring a few soldiers in the new uniform. Right, real lieutenant colonels of security detail will be pretending that everything is good and they're fighting successfully. Yeah, his last meeting was absolutely fake with so-called soldier mothers. Yeah, remember that his neck didn't even quite fit the background in that video. So they'll try probably, and it will not be people from Lugansk and Donetsk waving hi to Putin, so it will be his own security detail posing in that video. I don't even know why bother, why do all that video. Well, they can use it. Look, he is not afraid. He visited the peoples. But yeah, they'll probably shoot it in Ryazan or somewhere in Russia. They don't even need to do that to leave the territory. Okay, so there is another scandal to finish our stream for today. It's about a day old. It's with the TV company Rain. It is based out of... And I cannot avoid that question because you are representative opinion of some part. I'm not pretending for monopoly of Ukrainian public opinion. Mark, I'm not saying I represent any general public opinion, but yeah, I represent myself at this point. Anyway, so in this stream, one of the hosts was talking too much, as he explained later, that he said sorry and he was just going off script. And he basically said that the mobilized in Russia are in horrific conditions. We are helping them. Nobody understood how exactly they are helping them. But that scandal is growing wider, and TV company Rain may lose the license in Latvia, which was given for Latvian media, and there are certain decisions that need to be followed. There are certain borders about acknowledging that Russia is a terrorist state. This is a pure judicial side of question, besides the political. So, what do you think about that? I think this scandal will continue, and there may be more issues with similar media, similar Russian so-called liberal media. What do you think about that? Mark, I don't trust Russian liberal media. I understand you. We have 331,000 people watching it. Please elaborate. Any person who is familiar with the TV process would understand, with the Russian TV process, would understand that it was not an accident slip of tongue. 99% there is a redactor, there is a group that are writing the script. There is also a group, as far as I know, as I was told, that are working with the matter of mobilized and gathering data and addressing matters there. So the work of that group spilled into that stream. That's what happened. And the speed at which they cut the journalist also is a characteristic feature of them. If you think about that, if the person really just slipped his tongue and you threw him, you kick him out of his job, so he's in a foreign country where he is only because he's a journalist, only because he works for your TV channel, and now he cannot stay there, so he will be returned to evil Putin Russia, where he'll be imprisoned and sent where, to Koloma somewhere. So that's the price for a slip of tongue, right? I think it's something else here. I think what they told him, let us fire you for the visuals, for the picture. You'll be sitting at home doing analytics, getting the same money, but formally, it's incongruity of what happened with their reaction. If it is indeed a slip of tongue, he is not getting kicked out of job in a foreign country at a risk of being deported to Putin's gulag. If they are true liberal media. If he indeed slipped a tongue, just apologize profusely. He apologizes himself and stays working. There would not be evil intentions behind it. If he slipped his tongue and now he's facing severe repercussions and possibly incarceration and death in Russia, that doesn't sound right. And just being scared, if they really made that decision, that just is a characteristic of them as people working on the information front. If it is a slip of tongue, he should just apologize. Or if you punish him like that, then he did not slip his tongue. It would be funnier if he got really upset and then started talking and said, they made me a scapegoat, but there is a whole group working, and I was just reading the script, the teleprompter. So I'm very skeptical about that. So, yeah. It is a very thin line. We understand that a Russian TV anchor, even a liberal, even the one who hates Putin, he cannot not be emotional about his fellow citizens being thrown as meat onto the front to be killed there. So at some point I can understand that humanistic point of view. But at some point there is also a borderline after which the mobilized stops being just a citizen, but he also becomes the figure within the military force that is creating atrocities daily. Just our district attorneys are already loaded with 40,000 cases of different criminal acts that Russian military committed on the territory of Ukraine. So when that man talks about supporting that military, in case these mobilized, he is supporting that machine. We understand that thin line can be very peculiar, but if he somehow crossed from one side to another, he should apologize, right? I somewhat understand how I spent 8 years with different media, how that process works on TV. So I am skeptical about that whole rain thing. And we do have one very good acquaintance of ours who was prohibited from visiting TV Rain after the 24th of February, and Rain should not have him on any interview for that time. So that's a question, how independent that channel is, right? To be clear, I'm also a persona non grata on that TV, but I'm not looking at it from my own prism. But it's a different part of relations with them. TV Rain indeed restarted itself in Latvia, finding that place to be comfortable enough, using some money which were given to it from somewhere. I don't know. I suspect it's some grant means or something else, and probably it is based on some rules, on some things that they need to follow. We have seen things like that. It's not the first time when liberal media start and continue behaving themselves as if in Moscow they were sitting in certain parts of town, and there was an impression that they were living some sort of a hipster lifestyle and doing news in between, lackadaisically. But life is different. You cannot continue your Epicurean endeavors and enjoying life. Now life is much harsher. You need to address lives and deaths in the trenches among civilians. Frankly, Mark, among liberal Russians, I trust 3 people. Well, actually, a little more than that. Oleg Basilashvili, Lia Khidjakova, Andrei Makarevich, Gribenshikov, Who else? Shevchuk, Yuri, Mark Feygin, Alexander Nevzorov. Well, I'm a very specific one. The bunch you're calling are figures of culture. They're cultural figures. And that's it. Well, these are the ones who voiced their position and have not been changing their points of view. Like, for example, Navalny's people are trying to invite me to their news, to their shows, but they do not believe in existence of Legion of Freedom of Russia. What can I talk about them with? This legion is dying there near Bakhmut and standing like gods defending territory from their occupants, and they don't believe it exists. And I don't want to discuss that Navalny. I don't think Navalny exists in this case. Well, everybody can choose different positions. Yeah, Mark, that's skeptical point. It's not so black and white. That's the thing, Mark. Whenever I hear that it's not so black and white from Russian media figure is saying that is a big no for me. I can understand what Paul is saying that when Englishman is saying that. Feigin has it black and white. Oh, Feygin is in that boat since 2014. I have nowhere to run already, so it's simpler for me. Unlike other cultural figures, I was doing that. I've never really changed my scope. I was doing this societal political work. I cannot live without principles. I always have my ethics and principles. And I was being beaten in Ukraine even till 22. They were calling me that I'm an asshole who doesn't see anything except for Putin being an enemy of the world. And then all of a sudden, 24th of February, and then the war happens. Da-da-da-da-da, right? Yeah. We believed people are the same. We thought it's the same, just the last names are a little different. How dare they? How did it happen? And here I am saying, well, all the time I was telling you. So for some people, they had a revelation moment with Bucha, when people murdered and raped. And people realized that, yeah, this is horrible. And then there is a part of that group that started churning. They started changing positions. But there is you're right. There is a differentiation here. You're right. There is a very good movie, A Day of Wrath. Olexiy Petrenko and Yurgis, I forgot his last name, from Lithuania. So one is playing, it's an old sci-fi. One is playing a journalist from a very liberal channel, somewhere deep in the forest with a visit, and another is a person who lives there. And the journalist is asking, so why are you not going to the big city? Why are you still living here in the woods? Well, I don't like what you show on TV. Why? Why do you not? I don't like your movies, for example. Why do you not like my documentaries? Well, because you don't name things as they are. And that's it. That's really the underline. Because Feigin calls things what they are. Basilashvili, Akhijakova call things that they are. Shevchuk is also doing that. Gribinshikov may be a little more descriptive. Gribinshikov, Latynina, Nevzorov, they're calling things that they are. So I do trust them. But there is a group that doesn't. There is a group that has a bit of a different view. So I feel here there is some interesting undertone in this case with people who try to change positions, and I do not trust them. All right, let's see how things unfold. We have about 340 people watching us, over 110. Click 1,000, click the like button. Please continue sharing links to that stream in your social media. Do not forget to click subscribe to Feigin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych if you have not done that yet, and of course to Privateer Station. We are continuing to bring you these conversations and some other interesting talks that describe situation from the angles as they are. Mark, right. I need to subscribe to you, right? I need to see that. You're referring to, that's an old anecdote. Okay. So tomorrow you can't, right? You have your school tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, I'm busy, Mark. Aperon, my school is always, but yeah, tomorrow I'm other occupied, so Monday. Then see everybody on Monday. Goodbye. Thank you.